It is week 14 in the NFL, guys, so you know what that means. Time for my predictions, time for my best bets. But before that, let's jump into what I did on week 13. What a great week. What a great week. I went 11-4 and all the predictions through for all the games in the NFL for that week, and my best bets went 3-1. So if you followed me, you made yourself a profit. So if you guys could like and subscribe, that would be great. Costs you nothing and it goes a long way for me. Like I said, week 13, 11-4, and these picks are for free. My best bet's 3-1. So that was week 13. Let's get on for week 14. There's some real close games, teams fighting for winning their division, but I think there's a lot of money to be made this week. I like my best bets. Hopefully the heaters continues. Just a quick reminder, in the last 13 weeks, I only had 1 week that went even, 6-6, not in the red, just even. So for 13 weeks, 12 of those 13 weeks, I've been in the green, including last week, which was a great profitable win for us. So let's get to it. Let's break down week 14 in the NFL. By the way, if you want to watch my Thursday night picks or my Monday night picks, I put those on my TikTok and my YouTube shorts. Get those games really quick to you so you can get the information and what my prediction is. So if you guys want to catch those, just tune in for those. But let's get into all the rest of the picks for Sunday of week 14 in the NFL. In our first matchup, we have the Carolina Panthers versus my Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles being favored by 12 points and the over-under being 46. Panthers, man, was I rooting for the Panthers. I had the Panthers +6. I said my best bet was over in that game. They both hit. I also said I thought it was going to be a sneaky win by the Panthers, and it almost was. Chuba Hubbard, he fumbled right there. It was like around the 30-yard line. If he doesn't fumble, it's an easy field goal, and the Panthers win the game. And Chuba Hubbard, he has been reliable. He's over 900 yards rushing. He's probably going to get 1,000 yards rushing this year. Who would have thought the Carolina Panthers would have 1,000 yards rusher? I didn't. But man, was I rooting for them against that Buccaneers when they're playing against the Buccaneers. But you know, that's when you're having a terrible season, things just happen like that. You fumble the ball right when you're going to win it, and then you end up losing the game. Besides that, Bryce Young is looking better than he has, when he first started. The Panthers are 2-2 in the last 4 games, and in those 4 games, each game has been decided by 3 points or less. So that just tells me that the Panthers are in it every game of late. So they're trying, and the people are starting to believe in Bryce Young and this team and the coaching staff. So they're playing tough. Adam Thielen's looking good, the veteran wide receiver, good veteran wide receiver for Bryce Young, who's still learning the ropes, and he had a good game against the Buccaneers. Bryce Young went almost 300 yards and 1 touchdown, no interceptions, so that is really great for him. And it's just that they're not roadkill that people are thinking. The Panthers are putting up a lot of close games, and they're covering a lot of spreads of late. So keep that in mind. The Panthers are not just some team you could just kick around anymore. They're not the worst team in the league anymore because they're finally putting together and they're believing in themselves. The Panthers are 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 games. Like I said, they're really covering games of late. But their Achilles heel is their defense. Their offense is good, but they have an awful defense. The defense is allowing 392.1 yards per game, and they have the second worst rushing defense in the league. Not good. They're 5-7 against the spread in total. Not terrible for a team with that record. And they're 3-9 against the spread as an underdog. So keep that in mind if you think the Panthers could cover this game. Eagles, what are you going to say? I told you guys, take the Eagles money line, but take the +3 just in case. That came through for us. They're established themselves as a Super Bowl contender. They are a Super Bowl contender. And in my opinion, this might sound biased because I'm an Eagles fan. I don't care. I believe the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFL. I think they have a more complete team than the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Lions. Who the Lions, by the way, are all beat up. And I don't trust that secondary from the Lions. The Bills, they don't have that many great weapons. It's Allen and Cook who have to use their legs all the time and rush the ball. And they they protect Allen pretty well. He's the least sacked quarterback in the league. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Coleman and Amari Cooper really do it for me. But I think they're the second best team in this league. I'm not saying they're bad, pump the brakes. I know they're a really good team. And they're protecting Josh Allen really well. But I'm just saying, I think the Eagles are the most complete team. Number 1 ranked defense. Number 1 ranked rushing attack. The passing has 2 of the best wide receivers, or arguably the best wide receiver combo in the league, and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Okay, so there's that whole team, and the best offensive line in the league. The best offensive line in the league. The best tandem tackles in the league by far. Okay, and Jalen Carter on the defense. Don't even get me started on the defense. That guy's an animal. So I believe we are the number 1 team in the NFL. I digress. I'm sorry. Like I said, number 1 rushing offense in the league. Number 1 total defense. They have 2 MVP candidates, Barkley leading the way, but I think Hurts was in the top 5 just recently. He's definitely in the top 10, so you got 2 guys in the top 10, 2 guys who are going to get MVP votes. Jalen Carter is a beast. The guy's getting held 24/7. He just opens lanes for everybody else. Thank God we got him. Thank you for all the teams letting that guy drop to us in the draft. Great secondary and just a physical team. Cooper DeJean, he lifted Henry up and slammed him on the ground. King Henry, the guy's like 275 pounds and a corner, just using every might he had and just dropped him. That's how physical the Eagles are. But let's get something straight though. I know I'm glazing the Eagles here a lot, but let's just say this. The Eagles haven't covered a double-digit spread this season. So keep that in mind. The point spread is at 12 points. The Eagles are 7-2 against the spread as favorites, and they're 8-4 against the spread in total. Let's just get one thing straight. The Eagles are going to win this game, no matter what. They're going to win this game, so I don't think we don't have to argue about that. What I'm concerned is that the Eagles let go of the gas pedal because they're up by, let's say, 14 points or, 17 points, and the Panthers get a backdoor cover touchdown and they cover the points. And the Eagles haven't covered a double-digit spread yet this season. So I think the Eagles win easily, but I'm afraid the Panthers can make a backdoor cover. With that being said, I think the Eagles actually probably put up 30 to 34 points on the Panthers, and I think the Panthers could at least get 2 touchdowns or 13, 14 points, and that helps us get over the number. So I'm going to take the over 46 in this game as my best bet, and I like Barkley as an anytime touchdown, and if I had to choose between one of these teams, I would choose the Eagles to cover the 12 points, but give me the over 46 as my best bet for this game. And we have a not so exciting matchup here. We have the Saints versus the Giants. Saints being favored by 4.5 and the over-under being 41 points. Saints are coming off a loss to the Rams. They're in 2-2 in their last 4 games. They lost one of their best weapons for the year in Taysom Hill. Kind of sucks. Really cool seeing that guy play running back, tight end, quarterback. Really cool weapon to see a team use in various different positions. He's out for the year, so he's done it completely. MVS, the guy they signed, off the street, he's been a bit of a savior for them. He really helps them with the play action. It just opens up everything. When they think they're going to throw to Alvin Kamara, they could throw it over the top to MVS, which they've been doing. He's had a touchdown in every game he has played in since they signed him, MVS. So MVS has been a great addition to their team. Alvin Kamara's killing it. He has 1,350 total yards and 7 touchdowns. The Saints are another team with a ton of injuries, like the 49ers, just a ton of injuries. Their whole O-line is beat up. The cornerbacks are beat up, and the wide receivers are all beat up. So they are, injuries galore throughout this whole team. They're 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 games, and they're 6-2-1 against the spread in their last 9 games versus the Giants. They're 1-5 straight up in their last 6 games versus NFC opponents, so that's not great. But it's not much to say when you're playing against the Giants. Drew Lock will be the quarterback for this game. I mean, what are you going to do? Tim or DeVito? I mean, it's like picking a garbage of crap and a bag of shit. So, pick your poison, if you will. So they're going with Drew Lock. He didn't look too great against the Dallas Cowboys. He was 21 for 32, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Not so great there. Big loss, though, for the Giants. They lose Dexter Lawrence, their best defender, bar none, the best defender on that team. He had about 9, 10, 11 sacks for that team, and he's out now. So that's just a morale killer. Who's on that defense now? God knows. I think they got Brian Burns left, and that is it. The only way the Giants win this game, in my opinion, is they rush it like 35 times with Tracy and Singletary and keep the ball out of Drew Lock's hands. Maybe use the play action to throw to Neighbors, but that's just how I see it. They have to be able to run the ball at great to beat the Saints. They're 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games. They're 24th ranked pass defense, and the Giants have lost their last 7 games against teams that held a losing record. So it's not looking too good here for the New York Giants. Both of these teams have terrible defenses. Both teams are a mess. But give me the better QB and give me the better running back in this game. And losing Dexter Lawrence is just a morale killer. It's just their best defender. And even though the Saints have a bad offensive line, who's going to get to him? Brian Burns, like I said, he can't play Superman the whole way. So, and also here's a unbelievable stat. Unbelievable. The New York Giants have 1 interception this whole year, and it's week 14. That's the worst than any team has ever done since the year 2000. 24 years. That is unbelievable. That's how terrible the Giants are. They need to blow that team up from the foundations and rebuild, because this team is straight garbage, straight ass. So with that, give me the Saints to cover the 4.5, and it should be easy. I don't know how I think the Giants are going to just check out at halftime and say, see you later, we're done. So give me the Saints to cover the 4.5. And we have a real fun matchup here. We have the Browns versus the Steelers. Pittsburgh being favored by 6.5 and the over-under being 43.5. Cleveland's coming off a loss to the Broncos. But you know what? Jameis Winston, even though he threw 2 pick sixes, he keeps them in games. I like he has this no bullcrap attitude. He's going to fling the rock. He's going to throw it. And you know what? He's been keeping the Browns in games. I know he kind of shot himself in the foot with those interceptions. But you know what? I think the Browns need this. They're not going anywhere anyways. They weren't going anywhere in the last 2 to 4 weeks. But you know what? He's putting points on the board, and he's making the games exciting, and he's pulling off a win or two. So I like this. They beat the Steelers last time they played. So he is giving his team a chance to win. He threw for 497 yards in that game against the Broncos. And the Broncos, have arguably one of the best defenses in the league. So it's fun to see him out there just ripping it. Jerry Jeudy, he went over 20 yards in that game as well. He's going to get over 1,000 yards this season. That's another thing the Browns can hang their hat on. They got a receiver that went over 1,000 yards. Tillman looks great. He didn't play against the Broncos, but he's a good, young, up-and-coming wide receiver. So I think that's another great thing they could build around. Nick Chubb, he just doesn't look like he's right just yet. I think they're being precautious with him because they don't want him to hurt his knee again, and which is smart. They're not going nowhere this year, so have him rush 10 to 15 times and then put Ford in. Really smart. So don't expect that Nick Chubb is gonna do anything for this team this year. They have a good solid tight end in David Njoku. Sorry, I always screw that name up. So they have good, solid weapons. I like their tight end, and I like their receivers, and I like Winston. So I like the Browns. I'm hinting at this, as you can tell. The Browns are 4-10 against the spread in the last 14 games. The Browns have lost 5 straight road games, and they're 1-19 straight up in their last 20 games against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. So keep that in mind. The Browns look like a fun team, but those are some stats I gave you that are not so encouraging if you want to bet the Browns to cover this game. Pittsburgh's coming off a win against the Bengals. I had the over in that game. Pittsburgh plus the 3 points that came through for us. They put up 40 points against the awful Bengals defense. They've now won 5 of their last 6 games. Harris, I wasn't a believer in Najee Harris when the season started, but since Russell Wilson has been implemented, he looks way better, even catching the ball and rushing the ball. George Pickens looks decent, still a little crazy, a little unstable. But after that, after Harris and Pickens, I don't really like their weapons. Fairmouth, the tight end, he's been average to below average, and Austin, the other wide receiver, not so good. Warren, the backup running back, not so great. He's above average, good catching running back, but so that's what worries me about the Steelers. They rely on their defense, which they have a great defense, but they only have basically two weapons in Pickens and Harris. And Russell Wilson's doing a great job as well. But keep that in mind. The Steelers, their offense is not too scary. And actually, I could actually say that I like the Browns' weapons more than I like the Steelers' weapons. That's not a big statement to say. Go look at the weapons that the Browns have and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you tell me what offense would you take. Do the Pittsburgh have a better offensive lineman? Yes, they do. But tight end wise, I would take the Browns tight end. Jerry Jeudy or Pickens? I would probably lead George Pickens, maybe just by a little, but Jerry Jeudy's having a great year this year. And I'll take Tillman as a second wide receiver over any Pittsburgh second, third, or fourth wide receiver. So I believe the Browns have the better weapons. With that being said, the home team has covered the spread in each of the last 6 games between the Browns and the Steelers. So I kind of lean towards the Steelers to cover the 6.5, even though I like the Browns' weapons more. But I do trust Pittsburgh's tough defense more. But I think the best bet, I still think the Browns are going to put up points in this game, and I do believe that the Steelers are going to be able to put up points on the Browns as well. The last game was a snow game. It was a lot of snow, so I'm not taking that into fact, even though that game went under. I like this game to go over 43.5. I think it's the best bet. I think the Browns can muster 14 to 17 points, and the Steelers will take the rest of the points to take us over that number. So give me the over 43.5, and which should be actually a fun matchup. And our next matchup, we have the pretenders that are the Atlanta Falcons versus the Vikings. Vikings being favored by 5.5, and the over/under being 46. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about something briefly. I haven't seen a team in a long time that looks so pathetic and have that much weapons on their offense. And I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons. You have 2 wide receivers who possibly can go over 1,000 yards receiving each. You have a running back who's going to rush over 1,000 yards. And you have a quarterback who's going to go over 4,000 yards passing. And they're 6-6. Do you trust them to do anything? They may win their division. I don't think so. I think the Buccaneers will. But they may win their division. Do you trust them to go anywhere if they win their division? No. They'll be one and done. It's this team is like so much false gold. It looks like you just scrape it and that ugly color will just come out of it. It just looks golden on the surface. Just keep on scratching and it's awful. That's how the Atlanta Falcons are. All these weapons and they can't put it together. The Falcons have lost 4 of the last 6 games. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're 1-2 against the spread as underdogs, and they're 5-7 against the spread in general. Like I said, Kirk Cousins, he has over 3,000 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So the guys turn the ball over. We know what their issue is. We all know what the Falcons' issue is. They cannot get after the quarterback whatsoever. They have a total of 15 sacks. It is week 14. They have a total of 15 sacks. That is straight pathetic. How does that Michael Penix draft pick look now? You could have drafted a defensive end, a linebacker who could rush the quarterback. No, you go draft a quarterback who's going to be a backup for a couple years, maybe a few years. So how does that look? Dumb moves by the Atlanta Falcons. You have all these weapons in place for the offense, but your defense, they can't rush nobody. The defensive line couldn't get past a paper bag. That's how bad the Falcons are at rushing the quarterback. So that Michael Penix pick is looking god awful. And let's talk about the Vikings. The Vikings are coming off a close win against a scrappy Cardinals team. The Cardinals had it there for a while, but the Minnesota Vikings pulled it out. This is now their third game out of 4 that the Vikings won by 3 points or less. So they're not blowing teams out. Vikings as a team averaged 3.3 sacks a game, which ranks second, but the Falcons allow the least amount of sacks. So that'll give Kirk Cousins, good old Kirk, to possibly torch the Vikings secondary, and the secondary is not so great for the Vikings. Vikings have the best rush defense in the league, but they're the bottom 5 of passing defense, like I mentioned. I think these teams, they're going to have a hard time getting after quarterbacks. I really do. The Falcons are going to. They can't get to nobody. So I also think Kirk Cousins will want to beat his old team in the Vikings. So I think this game is going to be close. I think the Atlanta Falcons could put up enough points because what's his name? Darnold is not too bad for the Vikings. He's been picking up the last few games, so don't sleep on him. They have weapons in Justin Jefferson and Addison and Jones. Jones needs to stop fumbling the ball, and the Atlanta Falcons have weapons as well, like I explained before. But I think the Falcons and Kirk Cousins playing his old team, I think he's going to want a little revenge, and I think they keep it close enough. I just pray to God that the Falcons can at least get a couple sacks on Sam Darnold. So I'm going to throw my hat with the Atlanta Falcons, pray to the football gods, and hope the Falcons tip plus the 5.5 to cover this game. And God, they're going to need it. And this matchup, I believe, is going to be a fun matchup. We have the Raiders versus the Buccaneers. Buccaneers being favored by 6.5 and the over-under being 46.5. Raiders are coming off a game they lost, but they should have won, or they should at least tied the game. They botched a snap and the fumbles, and then they just, they don't cover the fumble, and the Kansas City covers the fumble, and they win the game. But they could have kicked the field goal, and if they would have made it, they would have won the game by 1 point. But what are you gonna do? They're on an 8-game losing streak. O'Connell, he put up some good numbers against the Chiefs. He was 23 for 35, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. That's pretty damn good. They have a nice 1-2 punch in Bowers and Jacoby Myers. They're not too bad, so they're not without weapons. They have a terrible rushing attack, the Oakland. It's one of the bottom 3 rushing attacks in the league. But because of the injuries of White and Madison, the 2 backups who are starting for them, and Abdullah and McCormick, they look better than the starters. These guys, Abdullah, who could catch the ball, and McCormick, he was actually putting the ball, he was putting his feet to the ground and getting 5 to 6 yards of rush. So these 2 backups look better than the starters. I say keep these backups in and keep White and Madison, the starters. Let them ride the bench, or keep on saying they're hurt and let them sit down and start these guys. The Raiders defense isn't half bad. It really isn't. I know their record sucks ass, but the defense ain't so bad. Their defense against the pass ranks 14th, and again, the defense against the run is ranked 11th. So not too shabby from a Raiders team that, for the most part, is pretty much a mess. Buccaneers are coming off a win against the Panthers. The Panthers had that game in the bag. Chuba Hubbard fumbles in overtime right there around the 30-yard line, the Buccaneers' 30-yard line. They could have kicked the field goal in overtime and win the game, but no, he fumbles. Buccaneers recover. Buccaneers go down, kick a field goal, and they win. Buccaneers are tied with Atlanta for first place in the NFC South, so this game means a lot. So they're going to be watching the Falcons game against the Minnesota Vikings. Or they're going to keep an eye on it while they're playing. So they know they need to win this game. Ever since Mike Evans has come back, they have lost. They haven't lost, and they are on a 2-game winning streak since Mike Evans. Like I said, when Mike Evans came back, he just opened the field for Rachaad White, the running back who could catch the ball better, and they opened for Cade Otton, their tight end. So Mike Evans opened the field for them. Bucky Irving had a great game. He rushed over 120 yards rushing against the Panthers. Not saying much. Panthers have the worst rushing defense in the league, but good 1-2 punch in Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. Bucs have one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Keep that in mind. And the Bucs have failed to cover the spread in each of their last 4 games after a win. They just beat the Panthers. So, this game has all the look and the smell of when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played the Panthers. It just looks and smells the same to me. And, I think it's going to do the same thing. I think the Raiders could possibly pull off another win in this game. I really think they do. I do not trust that Buccaneers defense. That secondary is Swiss cheese. So I'm not going to take the Raiders, money line. I'm not brave enough to do that. I think the best bet is over 46.5. I think Brock Bowers could light this team up and O'Connell. So give me the over 46.5 as my best play. But I also like the Raiders plus the 6.5 points. I think they could do a backdoor cover or keep the game close enough the whole game, just like the Panthers did. But give me the over 46.5 as my best play. This matchup is god awful. We have the Jaguars versus the Titans. Titans being favored by 3.5 and the over-under being 39.5. Who's going to watch this game besides their fan bases? Hell, if I'm their fan bases, I'm probably not watching this because both these teams are not going nowhere. Don't bet this game. This game, if you're betting, you might have a problem. Okay? Because these are two terrible teams. Jaguars, big news. If you haven't heard, Trevor Lawrence is out. He's put on IR. He's probably done for the year for that cheap shot by the linebacker from the Houston Texans. Like I said, this is going to be an awful game. Both these teams are going nowhere. Mac Jones will be the quarterback. He has not looked good whatsoever. So let's keep this short. This will come down to what players do you trust. Jaguars have Brian Thomason Jr., the rookie. He looks great. They have Ingram, the tight end, good, fast tight end. And they have Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby at running back. Nice two-headed running back. Not the best, but better than average. Titans have Calvin Ridley. They have Tyler Boyd and Westbrook. Westbrook is a touchdown machine. I believe he has 8 touchdowns for the year so far. And they have Tony Pollard, the running back, who's going to probably get 1,000 yards rushing this year. And they have Spears, the other running back, but he hasn't been doing much. So, who do you trust out of those weapons? I don't know. But for me, it comes down to one thing. It comes down to that the Titans are actually the better, somewhat complete team. And they are better because they have the better defense. And defense are more reliable and they're more steady. When you travel, where you go, defenses always play the best, I think. They hold up the better than offense will. So, all that being said, I think the Titans, they also get back their starting corner, one of their big acquisitions in the offseason. I cannot pronounce his name too well, so forgive me when I pronounce it. Chidobe Awuzie. He's one of their best corners. If you remember, he was on the Bengals and he was on the Cowboys. So they get him back for this game. So that's just adding more to their... They already have a really good pass defense, by the way. So throwing him on there just adds more security for you if you want to bet the Titans. And I do. I'm not going to bet this game, but I like the Titans to cover the 3.5 because they're somewhat a better complete team than the Jaguars. Jaguars, them losing Trevor Lawrence has to be a morale killer. Titans, they can at least hang their hat on their defense. And Will Levis, in the last few games, he hasn't been terrible. So give me the better defense. So give me Tennessee to cover the 3.5 and what's just going to be an awful game. But, what are you going to do? And in this matchup, we're going all the way to South Beach. We got the Jets versus the Dolphins. Miami being favored by 6 points and the over-under being 45. The Jets are just a mess this season. They're coming off a loss to the Seahawks. They had the lead the majority of that game. They blow it. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and they have lost 8 of the last 9 games. With all that offense, by the way. Adams, Wilson, Hall, and Aaron Rodgers. I just don't understand it. They're like the Falcons, even worse than the Falcons. All this talent on the offense, but you're trash. They're worse than the Atlanta Falcons. And What the hell is Aaron Rodgers? I mean, if I'm a Jets fan, I got to be sick and tired of seeing this guy's face on the Pat McAfee show. He goes on the show and he just acts like he's checked out. He went on the show and he said that he has nothing left to prove. How about you prove something to the Jets fan? You tear your ACL in the first game carrying the American flag like you're some hero. You tear your ACL and then the Jets went down the shitter. And they actually look better with that than the other guy before when he was backing you up. And then you come back and then everybody has all this praise for you. Some people had you guys making the playoffs and it goes down the shitter again. How about you give the Jets something to cheer about? But I think Aaron Rodgers knows with the new head coach coming in, a new GM, I think he knows that he's out too. So I think he's just checking out, going to Pat McAfee show, running his mouth, saying he has nothing to prove, blah, blah, blah. I'm a veteran, even though he should prove something to the Jets fan, give them something, but, he's gone. The Jets have failed to cover the spread in 8 of their last 9 games. Bottom 10 in passing offense and defense. And Sauce Gardner's questionable this game. He's actually hurt. So Sauce Gardner's hurt, your best corner. Well, then I don't know what the hell they're going to do in this game. They're 3-9 against the spread, and they're 1-4 against the spread on the road. So not so good since they're going to be in Miami. The Dolphins, they're coming off a loss to the Packers, a blowout loss, but they get the extra rest because they lost in the Thanksgiving game. They need this game. They need this game more than ever now because of this loss to the Packers. They're only 2 games from the last wild card spot, the 7th seed in the AFC. So they have a shot at it. They have a short window, but they have a shot to still make the playoffs. They shot themselves in their foot. They shot themselves in the foot in that Packers game. They had 20 missed tackles and 10 penalties. It's like any team, the Bills, the Eagles, they have that many missed tackles, that many penalties, they're going to lose too. So they got to play smarter. Tua has been great since he has come back. He has 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and throwing over 2,000 yards. So he's looking good since the bad concussion. The Dolphins need to get back to the running game. That's the only way I can see them actually covering the spread and winning. Give the ball to A-Chain and Mostert. That's how I think they win this game. And then Tua could use the play action to throw over the top to Waddle and Tyreek Hill. The Tua was sacked 5 times. Like I said, the run game would help that from keep Tua on his feet. And the Dolphins have won each of their last 8 games against the Jets, and they're 5-7 against the spread. So with that being said, I think a lot of people have checked out the Jets. They know, they're going nowhere this year. They know a new head coach is coming in and a new GM, and they're being looking to make some moves here, okay? And Sauce Gardner is questionable, and Aaron Rodgers is saying, he has nothing to prove on the Pat McAfee show, so he's checked out too. So I think the Dolphins, they know they need to win a game because the 7th seed is still possible they could get the 7th seed. So I think the Dolphins back in Miami, back where it's nice, warm, and sunny. I think they win and cover this game. So give me the Dolphins to cover the 6 points. And now we have the battle of the NFC West. And I mean that literally. We have the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. Cardinals being favored by 3 points and the over-under being 44.5. Both these teams, in my opinion, they're pretenders. Whoever wins the division, they're going nowhere, okay? Just like the NFC South, whoever wins those divisions, NFC West, NFC South, once the playoffs start, they'll be one and done. But somebody has to win this division, and it's probably be a good matchup. So, let's get straight to it. Let's make it quick. The Cardinals, they want to run the ball. If you stop their run, they're terrible. They go down the crapper. They have the 6th best rushing attack, by the way. And with the Seahawks, they want to pass the ball. You stop their passing attack, they go down the crapper. By the way, the Seahawks are not so good at stopping the run. They have the 21st ranked rushing defense. The Seahawks, like I said, they want to pass the ball, but Geno Smith, he's not reliable. He has 14 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He only has 1 or 2 touchdowns more than he has interceptions. So he does not have a good ratio, even though he has all those weapons. They have the 2nd best passing attack, because that's all they want to do. You think Geno Smith would have more passing touchdowns, but he doesn't. And the Cardinals have the 18th passing defense. The Seahawks have won each of their last 4 games as underdogs against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals in general are 8-4 against the spread. The last time this team's played, the total was 16-6, and I think 44.5 is actually a bit too high for this game. I think it's going to be a little bit more like the last game, the last matchup. I don't think it's going to be that low scoring, 16 versus 6, but I think it's going to be under 44.5. Both defenses are playing well in the second half. The Cardinals rank 6th in EPA in allowed pure play. And since week 7, they have 21 sacks in 6 games, okay? So with that, give me the under 44.5 as my best play. And if I had to pick a winner, I would take Arizona to cover the 3 points. But I think the under 44.5 is the best play for this game. And we have one of the better matchups here in week 14. We have the Bills versus the Rams. The Bills being favored by 3.5 and the over-under being 49.5. Bills are coming off a blowout win against the 49ers. They're on a 7-game winning streak. But, the Bills, I'm biased. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. The Bills, I believe they're second best. But what still strikes me is that the Bills, and they're during their 7-game winning streak, they have only been one team that's worth anything, and that's the Chiefs. The rest of the teams have been garbage teams or below average teams. So keep that in mind, okay? I'm not saying the Bills are that bad of a team, but during the 7-game winning streak, they only beat one team that's worth anything, okay? This team really relies on the rushing attack, which helps keep Allen from getting sacked. He's the least sacked quarterback in the league. Cook has 703 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns. Davis, the good backup running back, has 342 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. And Allen, he has 334 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. So they like to run the rock, and they do a pretty damn good job at it. They're the number 1 team in sacks allowed, only giving up 1.1 sacks. They're top 10 in passing defense, but their rush defense is ranked 18th. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. They could get a little better. The Bills have covered the spread in 7 of their last 8 games as favorites, and they're 3-0 against the spread as road favorites as well. Let's talk about the Rams. They came off a good win against the Saints. They're fighting for the NFC West to win it. They're right now tied for second place. They have won 5 of the last 7 games, and the Seahawks and Cardinals, they'll be watching that game. Since those two teams play each other, Cardinals, I'm sure they'll keep an eye on it, and they'll see who wins or lost that game, and they could possibly, jump in sole second place or be tied for first place if they beat the Bills. Matthew Stafford has played well in the last 5 out of the last 7 games. 5 out of the last 6 games. He has 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions only. The Rams defense is terrible, though, against the run, and the Bills, like I said, like to run the ball. They're 5-7 against the spread this season, and they're 2-2 against the spread as a home underdog. So with that, the Bills, they just beat up on average teams or below average team. They just beat them up. And Buffalo protects the QB well. They just do. Allen has not gained sacked this year. And I think Cook is going to have a great game in this against the Rams. I think the Rams will keep it kind of competitive towards the majority of the game, but I think eventually the Bills will pull away and they will cover the 3.5 points. And I also give me James Cook as an anytime touchdown, but I think the best play here is the team with the better offensive line, the more experienced team, and the better quarterback. I guess Allen is better than Matthew Stafford, so give me the Bills to cover the 3.5 points. And our next matchup, we're flying all the way to San Francisco. We have the Bears versus the 49ers. 49ers being favored by 4 points and the over-under being 44 points. The Bears are coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Lions. In that game, what the hell was that coach thinking, Matt Eberflus? What was he thinking? The Bears are moving down the field on Detroit. They have 1 timeout. There's plenty of seconds on the clock. And the guy just looks like a deer in headlights. He's just looking at the time as it goes down, down, down. Caleb Williams, who is a rookie, has to make a quick decision. And he just throws the ball, hoping his wide receiver could catch it in double coverage. And all the head coach had to do was call timeout, save some time, throw another pass out of bounds. Throw another pass to the receiver so he could go out of bounds, or maybe throw a bigger pass and clock it by downing the ball and kick the field goal. No, that bonehead of a coach just staring into the oblivion. God knows what he's looking at. Either that coach was on the take and he had Detroit Lions to cover the number, or he had the Lions money line, or he is just a big ass idiot. He's a bonehead and he shouldn't be a head coach anywhere again. But what a heartbreaking loss for the Bears. It was reported the Bears players were screaming in the locker room, telling the owner to get rid of this guy, and they did. This guy is a moron, but the Bears, they finally got rid of him. I mean, they need a whole new coaching staff. Bring somebody to coach up Williams, because this head coach staff that's leaving or still there, they're awful. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. It was just unbelievable, that game. The Bears have looked better in the last 3 games, especially Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has looked, in those 3 games, he has 827 yards passing, 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, and also over 140 yards rushing. The Bears still have a solid defense. They're better in the secondary. I think they're ranked 11th in the secondary. Their rushing defense, I think it's average to below average, but they still have a good secondary. 49ers, my God, they're coming off a blowout loss to the Bills. They're on their third game losing streak. And the story with the 49ers is just they are injured like nobody's business. Injured all over the field, on both sides. They'll be without CMC. They'll be without Jordan Mason, Nick Bosa, Hargrave, Ward, and Fred Warner, their great middle linebacker. He's playing with a fractured ankle, so he's not going to be moving too well. They're also going to be without, unfortunately, with Trent Williams, one of the best left tackles in the game. Apparently, I think I heard one of his child or children died, his children. So, my thoughts are with the guy, so it kind of sucks that he's not going to be playing this game for those reasons. So that's a bummer. So without Trent Williams, they have a losing record without him. So with that being said, I believe the Bears will have some extra juice because the head coach is going to be gone. I think that this is going to ignite them. They've been playing great the last 3 games, like I said, especially Caleb Williams. And because the 49ers are beat up on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, I'm going to take the Bears plus the 4 points. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears win money line. The 49ers morale got to be low in that locker room with all the injuries and the unfortunate news with Trent Williams. So give me the Bears plus the 4 points, but I also like Kittle to get an anytime touchdown in this game against the Bears defense. But the best play, I believe, is the Bears plus the 4 points, and I'm also going to sprinkle some on the money line as well. And for our last game on Sunday, the Sunday night game, the Chargers versus the Chiefs, with Chiefs being favored by 4 points and the over-under being 43 points. Chargers are coming off a win against the Atlanta Falcons. They actually won that game without scoring no offensive touchdowns, just field goals, and they got 1 defensive touchdown. So that was actually, something to see there. You can tell they missed J.K. Dobbins. They did not look good in the rushing game. I believe Gus Edwards had only 30 yards rushing, just above 30 yards. And the other backup, I can't remember his name. He doesn't look good. So, they're going to have to get something out of this running back group if they're going to want to beat the Chiefs. Cam Hart, they're one of their better cornerbacks for the Chargers, will play this game. He didn't play last week against the Falcons. He had a concussion during the Bengals game. And also their best wide receiver, McConkey, he is beat up. He's questionable for the game. He's probably going to play, but he is beat up. So, they need him to play really well for this Chiefs to beat the Chiefs, because, like I said, Dobbins is out and he was kind of like their main weapon. But so hopefully McConkey does play this game for any Charger bettors out there. The Chargers are just going to have to get creative. They're just going to have to get creative in the offense. We know how good their defense is. One of or if arguably the best defensive in the league, okay? So we all know how good their defense is. But offense-wise, they're going to have to open the playbook up and get creative. Use the 2 tight ends. Use Dissy. Use them anything. You're going to have, or Herbert, use your legs, man. Start running, doing RPO. God knows what. Just start opening that playbook, because without Dobbins, this offense looks like, it looks like a wolf without any teeth. So, they're going to have to open it up for them to have a chance to win this. The Chiefs, well, They're coming off a win against the Raiders, a game they possibly should have lost if the Rangers don't shoot themselves in the foot and they don't botch that snap. But you know what? They haven't looked good in the last few games. They've won 3 of the last 4 games, but in those 3 games, they needed the team to mess up, or they needed to come back and score a touchdown or field goal kick to get ahead. So they're not looking too great, the Chiefs. I don't care what people say, okay? This reminds me of the Eagles, who are barely scraping by when they were 10-1 or 10-2, and they had the debacle. Now, I'm not saying the Chiefs are gonna have debacle and they're gonna explode like the Eagles, but the Eagles were beating a lot of teams by barely beating them, and lucky things went their way. I see that with the Chiefs. A lot of things are going their way. They're not covering the spread at all. So, I'm a little hesitant on the Chiefs really doing something in the playoffs this year. I know they're great. They're a great franchise, but, don't put all your eggs in the basket with the Chiefs. The Chiefs got Pacheco back, but their defense, their defense is not as great as it was in the previous years. Keep that in mind. Their corners are not as dominant as they've been before. And the Chiefs, they haven't covered the spread in the last 6 games. Like I said, they're just not covering spreads well this season. So with all that being said, I think this is going to be a defensive, matchup between these teams. The Chiefs are going to want to run the ball and have that open up for the, passing the ball to Kelsey and Worthy and Hopkins. And the Chargers are going to want to, I don't know what they're going to do since their rush defense, their rush offense is pretty much gone with J.K. Dobbins. But the Chargers, they're going to have to figure it out. But the Chiefs are going to want to run the ball. And I think both these defenses, since the Chargers don't have that much weapons, the Chiefs can hold them. And I think the Chargers defense can hold the Chiefs. So I like the under 43, but I also like the Chargers plus the 4 points. I think it's going to be a close and tight game. I really do. So give me the under 43 and give me the Chargers plus the 4 points. Alrighty, guys. So those were my predictions for all the Sunday games. If you want my predictions for the Thursday night football games and the Monday night football games, just check out my TikTok or my YouTube shorts. That's where I make my predictions there. So let's get to my best bets. Just a reminder, my best bets went 3-1 last week. And for the whole week of 13, I went 11-4. So let's get to it. There's some real good games I like this week. Some good best bets, that is. So let's get to it. My best bets for week 14. And my first best bet is the Raiders and Buccaneers to go over 46.5. The Buccaneers, their pass defense is Swiss cheese, okay? So I think O'Connell, Brock Bowers, and Jacoby Myers can put points on the Buccaneers defense. And Buccaneers offense is really good. They have Mike Evans back, and that opens the field for Cade Otton and Bucky Irving and Rashad White. It just opens the whole offense now that Mike Evans, and Baker Mayfield always gives 110% when he plays. So I think this is going to be a 24-27 kind of game or 30-24 kind of game. But I think they get over this number, and don't be surprised that Raiders drop 24 points on them, because this Buccaneers defense is not good. And my other best bet is a bit of a homer pick. I know the Eagles haven't covered that many big spreads, but I like the Eagles to cover the 12.5 points against the Panthers. Barkley he has the chance to break the Eagles' all-time rushing record for a season. So I think he wants that. I think he wants to break the all-time rushing record for one season. So I think that's motivation for him to keep the gap, keep on pushing the gas pedal on the Panthers. The Panthers, don't get me wrong, they haven't played great of yet, but they haven't played the good team, an elite team like the Philadelphia Eagles with the number 1 defense and an offense that has all the weapons in the world. The Eagles have the best offensive line in the league. They get Devontae Smith back. He was out for 2 games, so now they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I think the Eagles could win this game by 2 touchdowns, and the Panthers, a solid team in the last 4 games. They've been covering spreads, but I think for this game, they do not cover the 12.5. So give me the Eagles to cover the 12.5 points. But for this best bet, it's a bit ugly. It's a bit ugly because this team's on a losing streak like nobody's business, and their front office and their head coaching and their coaching is a mess. Okay, there's no head coach anymore. He got fired, and that is the Chicago Bears plus the 4 points. The Bears are a mess, but I think because the football players for the Bears, they wanted the head coach Matt Eberflus to be gone, and now he's fired. I think that adds some juice to this team. And because how the 49ers are so beat up, I mean, they're beat up everywhere. The defense is decimated, but also their best left tackle is out for this game, Trent Williams, and they don't have a good record when Trent Williams is out for the game. So give me the Bears to cover the 4 points against the San Francisco 49ers. All right, guys, so those are my best bets for week 14. Now, let me give you some honorable mention games. These games were possibly going to be my best bets, but they didn't make the cut, but I'm probably going to still throw some money on them because I think they could come through. I like the Miami Dolphins to cover the 6 points. I think the Jets have checked out. Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show, you saw it. He said he has nothing left to prove. He doesn't give a fuck about the Jets fans. And Sauce Gardner is real beat up. So I think this team is just ready to, ready for the season to end, and they can just fly to Cancun and have a couple of margaritas and call it a season. And the Miami Dolphins, they have a small window to still get the last seed in the playoffs. They're only 2 games behind, so I think they want to win this game, and this game is back in Miami. So give me the Miami Dolphins to cover the 6 points, and I also like the Bills to cover the 3.5. They're playing the Rams. Don't get me wrong, the Rams have a good offense, a good veteran quarterback, but I think the majority of teams in the NFC West are garbage. I think the Rams have a good offense, but their defense is something left to be desired. They have a lot of young guys on that team. I think the Bills will eat up that young defense. The Bills, they beat up on average teams. They beat up on bad teams, and I think this is what's going to happen. I think the Rams keep it close for the majority of the game, but then I think the Bills pull away at the end, and they win this game by a touchdown or 6 points. So give me the Bills to cover the 3.5. All right, guys, so those are all my picks for week 14, my best bets, my honorable mentions. Let's hope it as good as week 13. Went 11-3 in week 13, 11-3, 3-1 my best bets, 11-4. I'm sorry, I went 11-4 in week 13. My best bets went 3-1. So guys, if you're telling me, let's keep the fingers crossed, let's win this week. Tell me who you like in the comments. Tell me if I missed anything. Tell me any information, some last minute breaking news. Put it in there. It helps all of us make money, and that's what we're here to do. Enjoy football and make some money on the side. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Small channel. Doesn't cost you anything to like or subscribe, and I love doing this. So with that, guys, thank you, and I'll always see you in the next one.